We have the privilege, the Shiur, to have over here Rav Yechezkel Weiss and his son, Reb Nissen, which the people in Muncie and a lot of other communities in the Catskills and much more, which is involved in Eruv Techum. It's the third year that the OU is making this conference, and this is the first time that we are expanding into the Eruv Techum. It says in the Medrash, Vayankev vini vayicham panai weed, that Yankov, before he came to Shechem, he designated the Techum, and the Medrash says that beschis from the mitzvah, he got the bruche for iferatz to yuma v'kayim l'tzevoyne v'negbu. So Techum is a big schis for all of us to go more and more. We need the bruche that we should be able to expand with the mitzvah. There's a big connection to Eruv Chatzaitis and Eruv Techum. Every time when you want to start measuring the Eruv Techum, you have to know first how the Eruv Chatzaitis is going, what the gevilim of the Eruv Chatzaitis is, and then you can start the Eruv Techum. And versteht sich, you have to know if the Eruv is kosher or not. That makes a big difference. And we have the Shiur, Rav Yechezkel.
Welcome everyone. It's an honor. And it's an honor to be here with Yidin Talmidei Chachomim, Bikiyim and Hilchos Eruv Chatzaitis. We're about to begin a small, very short shiur on basics, just touching the basics of Medidas Ayuris, Medidas Techum, and Anuchas Eruv Techum. However, I don't think we'll be able to expand to all these because it takes much more than a short shiur. But before we begin, I would like to mention that this shiur should be the Tovis Nishmas, Mori Verabi, my mentor, my Chavrise, my Shitef, I don't know how to call him. He was the one who was in charge of the Eruv Chatzaitis in Shikun Square, and he was the one that was my mentor, Shitef, Chavrise, and putting up this organization, small organization called Techum Shabbos. For the past 23 years, we're going around in the country, basically in the Catskills, a little bit in the Poconos, and by phone to much more places around the world. We've been in Europe too, one or two places, to measure the Ayuris, Bikavaya, where the year ends, where the Techum starts, and where the Techum ends, and so forth. He was very instrumental. However, he suddenly passed away. We're still in the year. Myself and him, we were both together by Rav Agun, Rav Tzadik, Rav Belsky Zatzal, about 20 years ago in the OU office. And basically we had a certain verheer by Rav Belsky to be as ma'asher as Modedai Techum. And we passed that verheer. So it's really a privilege to come back to the OU. And he's not around anymore, but I humbly represent him as far as possible. We're now about to begin. We'll try to have this, you see, Chaylik Aleph, because as mentioned before, keep on going, as mentioned before that Techum has three aspects, Medidas Ayuris, Medidas Techum, and then to be Kevaya Eruv Techum. We'll try to cover at least Chaylik Aleph. Go ahead. The Pusik says, Shvi ish tachtov liyaitze ish mimkoima b'yom hashvi. This Pusik has three aspects. Shvi ish tachtov liyaitze ish mimkoima b'yom hashvi. Go ahead. Meaning, every Yid on the palm of the setting of Shabbos, when Shabbos sets in, when sunset comes in, when Bani Shmushas comes in, whatever Bani Shmushas entails, to each its own, what happens is that he is koine shvisa, so to speak. He is koine a certain right to be in his physical, in a space that occupies his physical being. a person physically occupies 3 amas, and he gets an additional amma to expand himself. So a person actually takes up 4 amas. This means that he has 4 amas to each direction. So machloike rishonim. The Remu and Simoshin Tzadik Vuv, in the case of Eruv Techum, Medidus Chiman, Paskins like the Balamur, that he gets 4 amas to each side. He gets 4 amas to the east, to the west, to the north, and to the south. I don't know my dimensions here in this room, but whatever it is, he gets 4 amas to each side, and he is in the middle. So he actually gets, and then you square it off. So he actually gets 8 amas by 8 amas. That's the Tachtov. The place that he physically occupies is considered his Tachtov. Because Tachtov means the place that he is physically in. And it's 4 amas by 4 amas, and it's being squared off. This applies nowadays in H2. You might find yourself in a traffic, any place in a non-residential area. When Shabbos comes in, basically me'ikar halucha, without any exceptions of choil and so forth. When the halucha of Techum applies without any other strings attached, what happens is you have to put on the side, and you get dalad amas. You're middle of the road, and all you get, the first step is dalad amas but dalad amas. This is your tachtov. In addition to that, when that happens, again, I want to stop 1 minute. The reason for going through this is to get the basic understanding how Techum works. So we start off at the minimum. And then we start off, the idea is that in thought, in concept, in principle, what happens is that you get a tachtov before you get the alpayim amma. Then you get additional alpayim amma. As if you see that box in the middle, that's your tachtov. That's one step you have to get. You get dalad amas to each side, and that's squared off. Then you get a strip of alpayim amma l'choriach. That's mikoimoy. Shvi ish tachtov, al yaitze ish mimkoima b'yom hashvi. Even though we paskin that Techum is not a deraisa, it's a derebunon. However, as far as the Rebun is concerned, it's an asmacht on this pusik, and everything is learned as if the pusik is directly speaking about Techum. We paskin that the pusik is basically speaking about Hoitzua. Go back to the previous picture, please. I'm not still done with this. Sorry. You get a tachtov. You get a tachtov, you get dalat amas, and additional to that, you get mikoimoy. Mikoimoy means that in additional to your tachtov, that as mentioned in the picture before, you put the car on the side, you get dalat amas, you get an additional alpayim amma l'choriach. Let's assume that that's south, and that's north, and that's east, and that's west. So when you get alpayim amma, as wide as your tachtov is, since an original tachtov, without being in a building, being on the road, is dalat amas, meaning 8 amas on 8 amas, in a square, so you get a strip of 2,000 amas in length in the width of 8 amas. It's like getting a strip of alpayim amma, extending your tachtov to the south, an additional alpayim amma to the north, an additional alpayim amma to the east, an additional alpayim amma on the west. Then you square that off. So basically you get a square, so to speak. It's not a square, it could be a rectangle too. You get 4 corners. What we call square ribia means you square that off, meaning it has to be cornered. So in this case, it's a square. And it's not alpayim anymore. It's dalad alufim with 8 amas by square, but dalad alufim by square by 8 amas, because you get a box of 8 amas by 8 amas. In addition to that, you get alpayim amma l'choriach, and that's being squared off. In diagonally, you go alpayim v'tuf tuf. The concept of Techum Shabbos is you could walk as much as you want on Shabbos. You can't go beyond the Techum Shabbos boundary. Techum means a boundary. This is the boundaries you get. You have to stay within those boundaries on Shabbos. This is, and when somebody's on the road, me'ikar halucha, without any choil or anything, that if we will paskel, that he has to stay there, and he can't move because there's no reason that we should be matter. Any issa deraisa derebunim from him moving there, besides being under the tzeruchim, he has to speak to Moirua. But in concept, in basic principle, you get there dalad amas al dalad amas, alpayim amma l'choriach, you get a square like this. You get alpayim amma l'choriach, benoisef to the dalad amas, al dalad amas. So, but basically it adds up to is being dalad alufim, al dalad alufim plus ches amas, and this is the square, and the isser and the mitzvah is not to go beyond the boundaries. Go ahead. No. The addition to it's a very important question, and this is the most important concept. I don't know if we'll get to that. When Techum ends, let's put it this way. Once you don't have anything with your proximity, that's what we'll add on there, how this Daled Amos might extend. We're talking about the basic idea, and this Daled Amos might extend to be more than Daled Amos. In principle, when you have nothing within you, in your surroundings, your Daled Amos, that's it. And when that happens, once you have to measure Techum, when Techum ends in the middle of a city, where the Techum ends, that's where you go. So a Techum might end. There's exceptions to the rule, but this is the basic rule in general. When the Techum ends within Eruv Chatzairos, that Eruv Chatzairos would not help you. You cannot walk further. To give it a dramatic example, when you have somebody else's, when you walk into in a room, and let's say if it was so precise that I could determine, I can't do that. I had to speak with Rav Yechezkel on the phone once about that too, but a certain shala, that's not the point. If I could determine that the Techum ends right over here, if I could be so precise, saying the person that walks in from a different place, his Techum ends here, he could physically pick up anything from there and throw it here. Because if this object has been koine shvis in this building, this object has the shvis of this building. It does not have my shvisa. I'm permitted to carry there. By throwing a towel from there to there, what I'm doing, I'm carrying an object, was koine shvis in this particular facility, and I'm throwing it to that part of the building, meaning that I'm carrying, but I can't walk there. Because when Techum ends, where Techum ends, you can't go any further. This makes Techum a very relevant issue, and there's a lot of misconception about this particular locha. The kol semeduasoi be'emtzehu ir, kol semedisa means when the Techum ends in the middle of Yashisa Yuchad, you cannot extend that Techum any further. That will bring us to another locha. A lot of times, one Techum does not resemble the same. Point A does not resemble point B does not resemble point A. We'll continue. In this case, if somebody's going to shvis in a house, what happens is his Daled Amos get extended to the entire house. Why? The Shulchan Rav explains that since the limit of Techum is being learned from the Pusik, Shvi ish tachtav, Yaitz ish mimkoim b'yoyim hashvi, which really is on Hitzua. So any place that it's permitted to carry, it's a Rishis Yuchid, as far as Tachtov is concerned, because the real Tachtov means a Rishis Yuchid. And the Yaitz ish mimkoim b'yoyim hashvi means you can't carry from Rishis Yuchid to Rishis Harab. And we do with Asmachte that Techum is learned from this Pusik. So if in Hitzua Tachtov includes an entire Rishis Yuchid, everything that's considered a Rishis Yuchid extends and expands your Tachtov. It's not an Daled Amos anymore. In this particular drawing, whatever it is, it's 40, 50 feet in the width and 60, 70 feet in the length. So your Tachtov is not being Daled Amos and Daled Amos anymore. It's 70 feet, 70 Amos by 40 Amos as the dimension of the building. The building is bigger, so your Tachtov extends. Go on. If you're in a building like this, as we are in here, if somebody's going to choose here, the entire building, as another hotel is your Tachtov. And it's being extended. And this in a hospital. Somebody's going to choose in a hospital. Keeps on happening. As far as Monsey is concerned, anybody's from Monsey, Valley Hospital might be out of the Techum of Monsey. But if somebody is in that hospital in the beginning of Shabbos, the entire hospital is his Daled Amos. If it's a huge building, it's not Daled Amos anymore. It might be 1,000 Amos by 400 Amos. This is his Tachtov. Go on. Go ahead. This is a same building from an aerial photo.
That's even the hospital is not even if they're going on all those things, but if
You got the Rishus, it's a Daled Amos. That's your Daled Amos. You get a Paim Amar from there. So meaning, let's review. If it's 1,000 a building, let's assume it's 1,000 Amos by 500 Amos. This is your Tachtach. So you get a strip of 2,000 Amos in the length and the width of 1,000 Amos. So you get to north 2,000 Amos, but it's now wide 1,000, and to the north and the south, east and west will be 500 Amos. Since the width is 500 Amos, it will be 2,000 Amos in length and the width of 500 Amos. When you'll square that off, it won't be a square anymore. It will be a rectangle. We'll call it a rebia because it's four-cornered. It's not squared. The rebia is not meaning squared. Everything is from Uramikot. Everything Nosten pious. Has a pious to have corners. Techum Shabbos doesn't go in circles. it goes in corners. So you get in the diagonal in that corner, you get more than Alpayim Amma. That's the basic idea. Go ahead. Keep on going. Okay, this is exactly what we just explained, that the Alpayim Amma will adjust itself to the Tachtav that we're applying now. This is exactly what this is. Okay, now we'll go to the third phase in this. If we'll have this another way of extending, and it's important to mention, we're talking about Tzemid Chachoma, I might expand my words a little bit here. It's important to understand that there's two ways of extending your Shvisa. Originally, Me'ikir Adin, in principle, you get Daladamas Adaladamas. The reason we expanded that Adaladamas is because you're in a Rishis HaYuchid. So everything in the Rishis HaYuchid, since it's tacht of the Inyan Hoitzua, so therefore it's tacht of also Mashenagaya Tchiman. However, there's another way of extending. This is the Rav in Simon Tuf Aleph. But he explains that halucha, it's an halucha to follow, but he explains it, and it's a total different concept. Any place that's residential, people live there, your shvis is being extended. But now we don't really encounter Rishis Yuchad. You might have a Rishis Aram Daraisa going in between, or you might have things that are not a Rishis Yuchad at all, and it won't hold you back from extending your shvisa. However, you could have a Rishis Yuchad and it won't extend your shvisa. There's nothing to do with Rishis Yuchad anymore. There's two ways of extending the shvisa. Your original shvisa is Daladamas. When you're within a Rishis Yuchad, that entire Rishis Yuchad is Daladamas. But there's an overlapping when it connects to one Rishis to the next. We have houses within 70 amas to each other. When house A is within 70 amas of house B, and house B to C and D, rather use numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Number 1 is connected as if to say to number 2, number 2 to 3, number 4 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The one residing on Shabbos for number 1, his entire sheet extends up to number 5. The one residing number 5, his entire sheet extends to number 1. You might have a Ram the Rais going between the two houses, 16 amas, that's all it is. But whatever Rishis Haram requires, we won't go into that. If it will be, even if we'll have Rishis Haram Dvairaisa, that would not hold us back from saying that this place is a residential area and the Shvisa entails this whole thing. However, again, you might have Rishis HaYuchid, meaning you might be in a Karfef, Shaloi Hikiv Ledire, and it's more than 70 amas. So physically it's a Rishis HaYuchid because it's less than 70 amas. It's a Karfef Shaloi Hikiv Ledire. But it's small enough to make it a Rishis HaYuchid. One residing within that Karfef, his Shvisa extends to because it's a Rishis HaYuchid. However, you'll have a Karfef like that near a house that won't connect, even though it's a Rishis HaYuchid, because a Rishis HaYuchid doesn't connect to its houses. You have to live in them. And it might happen in the country, you have a ball field that's Mikiv. It might be smaller than 70 amas. You might have a Shalif, the swimming pool, is Mikiv Ladira, whatever you'll pass on a swimming pool, we're not going to that. You have parks, things like that. If you'll be Kavai, it's Mikiv Ladira, fine. If you'll be Kavai, it's not Mikiv Ladira, even though it might be a Rishis HaYuchid, technically speaking. It might be a laundry room, it might be things like that, that not necessarily fits the criteria of Mikiv Ladira. And I won't go into the details. There's 3 mahalchim how to measure Mikiv Ladira in this. It's a Shmis Fazir. If you'll be Kavai, that's not Mikiv Ladira. It won't help us as far as extending the ear, even though it's a Rishis HaYuchid. You might have a house that's missing the front entire wall, and it's puras b'mliya lemukim u'usela. And as far as carrying, you can't carry. There's no particular here. It's open to the point that you don't have the fourth wall, and it's mikiv in its mirfas b'mliya lemukim u'usela. It's uset to be metal there. However, since it's sharayim from a previous residential area, it is mitzaref because it's still considered a residential area, even though it's uset betiltel. That particular building, whatever structure, you can't be metal in there because it's broken down and it's missing walls. If you have 2 walls and a roof, or 3 walls without a roof remaining of a previous residential area, it's being used as a tziref le'ir, even though, practically speaking, you can't be carrying in there. So again, I will review. If you find yourself in the Rishis HaYuchid, that entire Rishis HaYuchid extends your tchim, and extends your shvisa, your tachtov. If you find yourself in a residential place, it goes further than that, and it connects the next residential thing, the next, and it becomes one big shvisa by being 70 amas connected to each other. And in this case, the Shiur Giver is not the criteria. It's not the one that we're looking at. We're looking if it's a residential area or not. That's what we do. We go down to places, people call us, we use this measuring wheel, and we actually measure from one house to the next to make sure that building 1 is connected to building 2 within 70 hours. We don't assume anything. We physically go down there, and we say this is what we've been doing the past 23 years. Going down there, we can try not to use Google Maps because it's confusing. It could be used in case of emergency with the Eruv, things we could see on Google. But the real thing to do is call us at the beginning of the week, not on Eruv Shabbos when it's an emergency. Let us get down there, let's do that entire measurement, make a professional Shabbos survey, and make sure that we know if that building is really residential, and that building is really up and running. But when you come down there, you see it with your eyes, and you measure it, it's a total different thing. You do Google Maps, and we can do all we can do with Google. We could help people with Google Maps, but it's not the same, just not entirely not the same. We won't take upon ourselves as much killers when we do it on Google because we don't know so much. We can only do things that we're certain, and since we have to use the computer from far away, we're limited. Once we get down there, there's much more killers available, and much more things you could do when you see something physically with your eyes, and you actually do the measurement. And however, we don't want to fix property without permission. What we try to do is, we go on the road, and we see the wall of their house, and you start here, when you're opposite of that wall, you keep on going, until you see the opposite of that wall. You keep on the road, trying to adjust, and if we can't do that, they'll go home, go to the house, we look up on Google Maps, and see from roof to roof how far we can get. But as much as we can get with our physical eyes and our actual measurement is the better. The earlier you call us is the better. Not necessarily we can do it in 1 week. A lot of times it's a 2.5 week project because we have to go down to all the houses. When it involves more residential areas, more streets, and more things. It needs a further follow-up. And we've been doing this for the last 23 years. And again, to the credit to my previous mentor, Rav Yechezkel, we've made 90% of the Catskills and many, many more projects like that for hospitals and so forth. And okay, this is basically what we said before. You got all the 5 houses, one shvisa. You got 2,000 amas to each side. Yes. Oh, again, we don't determine that, to be honest. We usually speak to the moireru on the place. If we don't have a moireru, what we do, we use the chezenische amma. Since it's a Rabbanan, many moireruas feel that some use some sefer also. In the case of a hospital, we use the bigger amma. But again, if there's Svardim or Chabad Yidden or people that usually use the smaller amma, we use the smaller amma. We're not someone to determine anything halacha on anybody else. What we do here, we're doing the survey, we provide you the information. We don't build the buildings, we don't destroy the buildings, we just measure the buildings. We try not to pass on the halachas, we try to provide you with information that's there. And just go down there, this is the buildings, because a lot of people in the country, if we'll build an Eruv, when you'll build an Eruv, you'll call us again. We don't do anything, something might happen, a little bigger, and it's very confusing. It's a very valid point, because a lot of people tell us, give me both measurements, give me the bigger armor, the smaller armor. When it's a small facility, we could do both, no problem. But when it involves more streets, all of a sudden I'm stepping on my own toes, because according to the bigger armor, so the city ends with a smaller, it's confusing. Tell me what you want, I'll give you the information. We're an information providing service.
You provide information in amas, or you provide it in feet?
I measure with feet according to the amas, yes.
No, but you just tell them how many feet.
Yes, I told them beforehand. You want the Chaim Nuas Amma? Go ahead, and the ear ends here. I don't go, not everybody has time and patience to go all the details. Tell me what you want. I'll tell you if it's one ear, when the ear stops, when the ear ends. You want the bigger Amma? This is the case. Again, yes? Yes. Yes. And we have Eruv Chetzeres, we have Shivim Amma from that Eruv Chetzeres, another house. Meaning in the country it happens all the time because you have a Jewish facility here with an Eruv Chetzeres, and all of a sudden the non-Jews live right near, and 70 Amos continues. We have in Kiryas Yoel, it's huge by now. It's huge because the Eruv Chetzeres extends, and you have houses beyond. So once that the Eruv Chetzeres ends, then you start measuring Shivim Amos from that. And it happens in the country too. Let's say Swan Lake. Swan Lake had put up a certain Riva Chatzaitis. In the Swan Lake from here, from now, the Swan Lake from 20 years ago when we started is completely different. South Fallsburg is a completely different outlook. Way back, Rav Goldberg might remember, South Fallsburg was divided in 3. Now South Fallsburg goes all the way from Kaimisha, all the way up north is called up by us, all the way up to Fallsburg Hills. And you could actually walk from Kaimisha, technically, if you're 3 days younger, I don't know. You could walk from Kaimisha to Woodburn, because from Kaimisha up to Fallsburg is 1 year, and you get 2,000 amas from there. So why? Because the Riva Chatzaitis was put up, and again, as Reb Chamayr mentioned before, and I thank Reb Chamayr for bringing me here, it's very important to have a mismach de Eruv or mashgiach take care of that Eruv. We won't go public with any Eruv or any measurement that's based on a Eruv that doesn't have somebody responsible beyond it. In the mountains, we rely on Rabbi Goldberg. If you have a responsible moirarua, or a responsible mashgiach, that we feel confident enough that when he says the Eruv up, it's up, and when it's down, and I have solid information, I could tell you that 7 amas from that Eruv is okay. Once an Eruv is down, keeps on happening. We had this problem with Hackensack Hospital, the Eruv changes. If the Eruv is not the same boundaries as before, what happens is, I can't give you, I won't go in public to say that. I would want to add one, yes, go ahead. Okay. Excuse me? Yes. What? It's part of an Ha'ir, but it's not part of Monsey. Since Hackensack is in the east of Garden State Parkway, and Monsey is the north and the west, and you have the Garden State Parkway just slicing through, I don't have a connecting point from these two ayuras, so it's a different year. I just want one point, and with that we'll finish off. What always that was said by now was 5 houses. Once you got 6, it has a dinner for ear. Once it's a dinner for ear, it's not only one shvisa, you have Shivam Amma Benoiser. Your Tachtov is this entire 6 houses. You get Shivam Amma around that, you square it off, you get additional Shivam Amma, and from there you get 2,000 Tamas. If you have 2 ayuros, this will be our final halacha, meaning 1 ear A, with houses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, each one being a 70 amas from each other, 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, so forth, you have an additional ear B, that has 6 houses, which every one is from Shiva Mama to each other, and you have Kif Mama Alav Hama between the 2 ayuras. The karfa from ear A overlaps the karfa from ear B, whatever you want to call it, then it's 1 ear. This is basically what it is, and this whole thing becomes one big shvisa. You get Shiva Amma around that, and Alpaim Amma around that. With this we call it a Shiur, and the Chizvish Mir Shabbos, Shazor Chazan, Tziyom Shekil Shabbos, and Bisa Mashiach, B'mhayru Uman.